Hey there, welcome everyone. Thank you all for attending the Nutshell Efficiency Hacks session today. My name is Eric. I've worked in the software industry for several years now, and I'm a customer success specialist here at Nutshell. So my goal on a day-to-day basis is to help people feel empowered and to give them the knowledge they need to make the most out of their CRM. If you've ever called in with some billing questions or to figure out how to make certain features work for you, we may have spoken before. I'm glad to have you back and to see that there are so many other people here today that are also interested in learning some tips and tricks for making the most of their CRM. So a lot of people have come to realize that CRMs are an essential tool for growing businesses. Allows you to take a step back, review information and communication in a way that's easy to process, and use that information to make decisions for your business moving forward. Also, for management, lets you know what your colleagues have been up to when you aren't working in the same room or calling each other for updates on a day-to-day or hour-to-hour basis. So when it comes to making the most out of a CRM, I live by one simple motto, and that's you get as much from it as you put into it. So I've had this demo account for less than 1 month. My example business just came around to the idea of moving into CRM in 2021, and now here we are. So today, what I'm really going to focus on is a few areas where I invested a couple hours worth of effort into and where we see the benefits of that effort today and will continue to see every day moving forward. So let's start by me pulling up this demo account that we have. And here we go. All right. So we're going to start off with some basics. And when I say basics, I mean really basic. Because a common mistake that people make when getting set up in a new system is that they do not check their settings. Now, whether you're unboxing a new TV, signing up for a social media account, or in this case, getting set up in Nutshell, you should always review your account settings and make sure that they're the way you want them. So the first area that we're going to check out is our very basic profile settings. And a lot of these might seem super basic and unimportant to you, but I found in most cases, when you look through your account settings, you're gonna find something interesting. So up here, we've got your name, your email. You can change your password from this area. You should definitely set up your time zone when you first get set up. And you probably won't need to mess with your default market or your default phone code unless you're working internationally. But then we come down here and we have an area to connect your Twitter account. And so one of the benefits of connecting your Twitter account is when you add your people and company Twitter accounts to Nutshell, it's going to pull in some extra details and information about them. So let's go ahead and give you an example of what that looks like by adding our head of content and communications, Ben Goldstein. So we're going to go over here and click this plus button. Just like we add anything else into our account. Go select person. And we know Ben's Twitter account because we follow him and he's particularly hilarious. We'll go ahead and click save. And now one of the nice things about this feature is we only entered in that one bit of information, his Twitter account. And we have this feature called Nutshell Intelligence, which is going to bring in a bunch of other data as well. So we see his follower account, how often he tweets. This is really great too when you add companies' Twitter accounts, because a lot of companies are starting to get set up in social media. You can see how active they've been, how big of a following they have. But this Nutshell Intelligence also brought in a bunch of other data about them. It's connected to Ben's LinkedIn account, a couple of his blogs as well, pulled in a little bit of profile data about him, as well as his profile picture. And since he's working at Nutshell CRM and his LinkedIn, it even pulled that data in for him. So all of this just came from our very first, very basic account settings page. Now, let's take a look at some of the other account settings that we have available. So we have our phone over here. If you prefer to work off of a landline, you might not need this, but lots of businesses set up with online phone services. And the convenience of this is that once you have these set up, if you click on a phone number on a random person or company page, it's automatically going to bring up that service and give them a call. Or if you don't have those services, we have a built-in click-to-call feature. So this comes with our Pro package, and it automatically lets us call everybody once we have it set up, and you can log those into the people's pages right after you make the call. Take some notes about the call as well. Let's take a look at what that looks like when we pull up Nutshell. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this phone number down here. You can even choose to call and record if you have Nutshell click-to-call set up. And then perfect, we're connected. Now we're not going to do a full call over there, but we can see right here that I can add some details about what we talked about. Once we save that in here, we can scroll down and we have the details of this call listed in right here. So that's our phone settings. Let's take a look at some of the other options that we have available. We've got our calendar sync right here. And this is nice because if you're scheduling phone calls, scheduling meetings, Zoom meetings, and all of that in your Nutshell account, me personally, I work out of my Google Calendar all the time. So it's nice to be able to have all of that data transfer over to my Google Calendar. You know, if I'm out on the road, I can check the calendar from my phone, make sure that I'm at a computer or a place with good internet if I need to hop on a Zoom call or anything like that. If you don't have Google or Office 365, which has these two-way calendar syncs, almost every single calendar app is going to have a place where you can add a calendar feed based on a URL. So those will be right there for you. Now, one of the main account settings that I feel does not get nearly as much attention as it should is your notifications. Remember, the whole point of a CRM is to get more organized. So if you're not customizing getting alerts for the things that matter most to you, then what are you customizing? I have mine set up to give me in-app notifications, which is this little bell icon down here on the left side, as well as mobile push, which is like a little text message that goes to my phone for almost everything. And then I keep it pretty sparse on the email. I only like to reserve email notifications for the things that matter most to me. My email inbox gets clogged up enough as it is anyway. So these notification settings are completely customizable to every single user on your account. You can set it up the way you like it. Your coworker can set it up the way that they like it. Now, there are a ton of different account settings in here if you're an administrator on your account. So you're going to have tons of other interesting, unique, and useful settings pages that you have access to. We're not going to get into all of those today, maybe just a few that are relevant to later parts of this more universal presentation we're giving now. But my team offers special administrator trainings every single week, and we spend tons and tons of time making really easy to read articles full of screenshots, step-by-step instructions for every single one of these topics. Anytime you feel like you want some more details or instructions, you're just going to go ahead and click this question mark icon on the bottom left corner, and talk about and type in what you want to learn about. So let's say we want to customize our company types, but we're not 100% sure how that should look. Go ahead and click that. We've got all these great links, easy to use instructions with screenshots. And we even get to details you might not have thought about, like how company types show up in reporting. Remember, anytime you just need to look those up, it's just the question mark right down here. Okay, so we're wrapping up the general introduction to the settings, and I gotta say, for as much as we've covered here so far, taking care of your settings can take maybe 10 to 15 minutes of setup. And you'd be surprised at how many people just forget to do this when they get their new logins. Now, I know there's a bunch of other bells and whistles in this tool, so it's easy to get caught up in all the possibilities, but that's what we're here to focus on today. So putting in some effort into the framework of your account early in the process is really going to benefit you in the long run. So now let's dig into some ways that you can really make this account yours. And for that, I'm going to ask you to think really hard about this one question. What are some factors in how you make business decisions that are really important to you? What kind of information do you want to have readily available to help make those decisions? Everybody's answer is going to be a little different. This next example might feel like a really great idea to you, or it might be something you don't really care about. That's okay, as long as it's getting you thinking about the possibilities of what you can do with your account. That's what's important. So let's go over to the territories section. So as a sales rep in our demonstration account, I'm going to log in on an average day. And just let me backtrack a little bit here. And we're going to see all these tasks related to making phone calls and sending out emails. We see this task list up here on the right that I'm scrolling down. And honestly, this task list seems a little long. It can feel a little bit daunting. If you're walking in the morning, you got 20 things to do, and you don't know where to start. So let's see if we can help structure our account in a way that makes it easier to decide what we want to take care of first in the day. Now let me take us back to the territories. So in our test account, and actually on our real-life Nutshell sales team, we don't dish out leads based on geography. We don't give all the leads in Michigan to one person and all the leads in New York to another person. If your company does do this, you should definitely set up territories, because what this does is it allows all of your leads, people, and company to be grouped up into certain regions based on state, country, zip code. The list goes on. Now, even for our team that doesn't distribute leads this way, we can still make some use out of this territories feature. We sell our products all across the country. And if you do the same, I'm sure you may have had an awkward situation where you're from the Eastern time zone, calling a West Coaster at 9 a.m. by accident. It's 6 a.m. over there. You may have just accidentally woken them up. It can be embarrassing. So to help prevent mistakes like this and add some extra structure to our account, I've created territories for each time zone. And as I mentioned earlier, I set these up based on state, so it's a little more general, but you can designate these all the way down to the area code. So now let's see what these territories look like in action. I am going to add a new company to our account. It's this organization in Las Vegas. We heard that they were going to do a big project soon, and we want to give them an estimate. So let's add them into our account. We know their address. And I actually remember their Twitter as well. Save. And we can see that instantly when I created that, this was grouped into the Pacific time zone area. So now that we have the company created for them, we are going to create a lead to measure that sales opportunity. Keep track of everything we're doing to make that sale happen. And I am going to place this into our sales pipeline. Go ahead and get that saved. And look, we can see that that time zone carries over into this new lead. Now, there's a bunch of great stuff that we're going to go over on this lead page later on in the presentation. But let's go back to our lead list now. So remember what I said is we're going to use territories to help organize our leads in a way that makes sense to us. I am going to organize this by just the leads that I'm in charge of. And we only want to focus on the open leads right now. So we got about 20 leads that I'm working on. Again, if you have 20 tasks in the morning, it's a little daunting. Where are you going to start? let's organize this list by our territories. So I'm going to type this in here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put everyone from the Pacific time zone and everyone in the Mountain time zone into one group. We already cut that down to 7 leads, so it's a little bit more manageable. We can segment that. And since this is a list and filter set that we're going to be using on a daily basis, I am going to save this by clicking the Save button in the top right corner. We'll name this West Coast. We'll even elaborate a little bit that we want to contact in afternoon. Now let's go ahead and do the same thing for our Central and Eastern time zone. Since this is a new list, I'm going to go ahead and click Save As. East Coast. Contact in the mornings. So we always have these lists in our list view to refer from, but let's take this a step further. Because like I said, I'm going to be using these lists to help make decisions on a daily basis of who I reach out to first. So right here from the dashboard, we have this area where we can add a card. I'm going to go ahead and click Add a Card. We're going to pull up this list. And we have those lists that I just created. And look, we even have the Luxor Esports Arena project added right there up top. Do the same thing for my East Coast leads. And so again, you might not want to organize your leads this way. I'm just trying to get you to think about the possibilities that you can organize your leads in any way that makes sense to you. Maybe you want to organize them by who all you contacted recently. You can do that. There's tons and tons of different filters available here. Go through and check them out and see what looks best for you. But now when I'm looking at my task list in the morning, I can say, oh, okay, so I do have a task related to Luxor. It's at the top of the West Coast. It's the afternoon now, so let's give them a little reach out. Once we send that email, we'll check it off, and that's one last thing we have to do today. You can customize this dashboard in a ton of different ways as well. Does your organization have strict quotas that you have to meet? Let's go ahead and add some quota cards so that we can keep track of those. Now, this is going to be a personal quota card for me, so I want to add all of the most relevant details. I want my sales quota, how many phone calls, Zoom meetings, and emails I'm scheduling in the week. There we go. Maybe you're a supervisor for your department and you have a bunch of people whose quotas you got to keep track of. Let's go ahead and add them as well. So we can customize that so that this card is just showing everybody's sales numbers. Perfect. Let's go ahead and save that card to the dashboard. And I'm sorry, I'm going to repeat this a couple more times throughout this, but the whole point of this is just to get yourself organized and set your things up in a way that makes sense to you and help you on a day-to-day basis. So I challenge everyone, the dashboard is the first thing that you see when you log in every day. Try and find some way to organize this in a way that's going to help you out, even if it's just a little bit. All right, so this is a little bit about the setup. Now let's really dig into looking at our leads. Let's go back to this lead list we had over here. Now, one thing that I really try and communicate with everybody is that, some people come to me and they say, I set up a company page. Why do I need to create a lead as well? Well, you set up the company and the people pages just to record, all of your interactions with this person as long as they're going to be in your account. But you create a lead for every type of project or sales opportunity you have with them. So depending on how your business is set up, you might have 3 leads with the same company over the course of the year if you make 3 different sales opportunities with them. Now, let's take a look and see. We can filter our lead list by all the leads that we won. and we can organize this by all the oldest leads. So everybody who we made sales to a year ago, if it's about that time to see if they want to renew a contract or get a new project going, now we have a whole list of people who we already have a good working relationship with. We can create a bunch of new leads with them, maybe tell them about some new products that we're releasing, seeing if they want to make any upgrades to the past project that they made. And we can always look back and see the details of that past project that we did with them. Or one of the things we can do is we can take a look at all of the leads that we lost. I actually want to remove the ones as well. So maybe you and your team are developing a win-back campaign for everybody who you didn't quite make the sale with. Or maybe these people they said it wasn't a great time and to reach out to them later. Well, we still have the record of that lead that didn't go our way the first time, but we can use this list to create a bunch of new leads to follow up with them again in the future. So now let's go back to that new lead that I just created for the Luxor Hotel in Las Vegas. Remember, we're thinking of this as this project and as a sales opportunity. We have this particular lead in our sales pipeline, but we also have different pipelines for different types of opportunities. After we make the sale, our installation process can take a little while. So we want to create new leads for them to make sure everything's going smoothly, that our site supervisors are there, and that everything's being handled accordingly. And a great one for all of our successful leads that we have is we have our follow-up marketing opportunities. So what we like to do is when we do have a great experience working with a customer, we'll reach out to them and interview them, maybe see if we can get some pictures of the finished project. This is the type of thing that our marketing team has told us does really, really well with our particular demo count here. But for now, we're just going to focus on this sales pipeline and what this looks like. So a pipeline is just a set of stages and goals that helps you accomplish whatever your task is. In this case, it's to make the sale. And we can see that every stage is going to have some stage guidance. And then we put some tasks in here that are going to help us accomplish that goal. Our first stage is the initial contact. So we're really just trying to get a meeting on the books with these people. We can see that our tasks reflect that. So even if you have a new sales rep who might not be fully trained, they can get assigned a lead and know exactly what they're supposed to be doing to help make this happen. And these are 100% customizable as well. Does your business prefer to do a bit more research before you start contacting a lead? That's no problem. If you're an admin, you can go over to your pipeline. You can add a new stage that has to do with research. Or you can add some tasks that have to do with that as well. What kinds of things do you want your sales reps to be following up on? Do they need to learn the size of the company that you're reaching out to? Should they find out some information about some recent projects that this person's undergone? Or should they find out what the person in charge of doing their business decisions is? Anything that you can think of that's going to help your sales reps be more successful, you can plot those out as tasks. All right, now let's go back to the lead. So stages and tasks are the very basic parts of this lead page. But remember what I said at the beginning of the presentation. You're going to get as much from the CRM as you put into it. Over here on the right, you can enter products here. We can give them value as well. Once we add those in there, we can see that the value has been updated up here at the top of the page. That's also going to be reflected in other parts of the app as well, like our lead list and our reporting features. We'll do more on that later. We can update our confidence. So how confident do we think that this lead's going to go through? We're at the very beginning stages, so it might only be 20%. Or if they sounded super excited and super eager, we can get that all the way up to 60. For right now, I'm going to keep that at 20. You can update your expected close date. When do you think that you're going to make this sale? I think typically based on how long these projects have gone, we should know by the end of the month. Now you can update these confidence and these expected close dates at any point throughout the leads process, but I'll show you how these come into effect with the reporting just after we finish on this page. Now, one source, again, that I feel like should be entered on almost every single lead you're working with is the source field. How did you hear about this lead? Was it just a random cold call you made? Did you meet this contact at a conference? Did it come from your web sign-up form? This is going to be crucial in figuring out where we should put our efforts and which efforts have been most successful to us later on. So let's go ahead and see what all this looks like in the reporting area. The first report I'm going to show you is the forecast report. And this has to do with those expected close dates and the confidence rates that I just showed you all. So if we're talking to our accounts receivable and to our management, we can give them an idea of what we're expecting as far as sales over the next month. And we can even weight this by confidence. So if you check this box right here, these went up, but if you notice on the left-hand side, these numbers went down. So this is a little bit lower because all the leads that we said, hey, we're only 50% confident that this is going to play through. Well, when you weight it by confidence, you only get 50% of that profit showing in this report. Now, the next type of report that we're going to take a look at is our sales report. And we can see that our year's been pretty good over here at all of our kind of like months worked out here. But we have this huge spike here at the end of April and the beginning of May. And we really want to look back and see how that happened and how that came to be. So let's go over here and customize our report. We are going to filter this down so that we're just seeing those months that we talked about. April through May. We'll apply that. All right, so we see this huge spike right here, but this isn't really giving us a lot of details. Now that's where segmenting this by source is really going to come in handy. Now we can see all the types of sources that went into this really great month that we had. Web signups, referrals, cold calls, but we can see that the biggest spike came from this convention that we attended at the end of April. Now, as a sales or marketing director, maybe I wasn't completely sold on the idea of having a presence at this convention at the time. Maybe it seemed like an effort and expense that I wasn't sure was going to pay off. But now, looking back, we can see that it definitely paid off and in a big way. So next year, maybe we can plan to have an even bigger presence at this convention, and maybe we even get more leads then. Also, the person from our marketing team that really pushed us to be at this convention this year is definitely getting a raise, and they have the data to show that they earned it. This is just one example how having data entered into a CRM is going to help us when we do report on certain sales metrics and use those metrics to help make decisions in the future. You can also segment your reports by product types. You can segment them by territories. You can segment them by assignee to see which of your sales team members are really making the most of it. But as I was saying earlier, we're not going to be able to segment or report on any of these things unless we're doing the work initially to set up our account that way and making sure that those are getting entered in. Now we have these additional filters that we can even apply right here. So let's say we're going to go back to our sources, and I just want to see a report for all of our biggest leads with the biggest value. Well, we can see that our average value was 60K right around here. So we're going to go to the value filter and say, I only want to see leads in this report that were over 60,000. Updates accordingly. And we can see that although the game convention was a really great one, referrals and cold callers are our next biggest sales. So one of the cool things about Nutshell is there's tons of things that you can report on, and you can also report on the things that you don't have. So we've already emphasized at this point that recording the sources for our leads is going to be really, really important for us. So let's go ahead, look at all of our open leads, and let's filter by everyone that doesn't have a source. So this cut it down pretty much. We have 31 leads. A lot of them are newer ones that don't have any sources. But then as a supervisor, I can follow up with all of our assignees and say, hey, I know that you haven't had your sources on this list of leads. Please go ahead and add those sources as soon as you get a chance, because it really helps us out in our reporting later on. So this just goes to show you that there's tons and tons of different combinations and use cases for all these data points that we're going to record. If you ever have some questions about, what exactly you're looking for and how you can make that in the system, feel free to reach out to me and my team. We love to help people customize the accounts to make the most out of it. Now, let's move. This wraps up the portion of our presentation where we really focus on the different settings, setups, and how putting in the work to establish those early on is really going to benefit us in the long run. So the next thing I really want to talk about is imports and integrations and how all of that works in a nutshell. So when it comes to connecting different systems and resources together, exporting and importing your data through spreadsheets is the most universally accepted method. Believe it or not, most spreadsheets that are exported and imported out of systems like Nutshell have a universal format as well. Let's go ahead and bring up an example spreadsheet, and we'll talk a little more about what that format looks like. Okay, so let's go ahead. I'm going to switch the screen over to our, let's open these up first. All right, let's go ahead and switch the screen over to our spreadsheet. So the universal format for these spreadsheets in almost every single one of these types of databases is you're going to be putting everything related to a specific company, person, or lead in the same row. And then you're going to segment out every single data point for that lead into columns. Now, I'm going to show you two examples of spreadsheets today. This first one is a real spreadsheet that was sent over from a customer of ours. And I'm sorry if this was yours, but this is going to be the spreadsheet of what not to do. And I think you'll all see why in just a moment here. So this spreadsheet starts off pretty basic. We have contact ID, first name, last name. We start to get into some more specific details here, what their statuses were, total revenue, vendor, IP city, invalid email addresses. So I'm scrolling and scrolling, and we are already at 26. Military status, we might give them a military discount. Okay, we keep going. Date of birth, I think I saw that in here twice. Okay, keeps going. All right, we're in the B's now. That's over 50 columns. Work email. I wonder how that's different from any of the other email columns we already had. Okay, we're going. We're into the C's. All right, I'm picking up the pace a little bit. We are in the D's. All right, let's go faster. Okay, EK. This is over 140 columns of data that this person submitted to us. And now some of you might be thinking, what's wrong with all that? More is better, right? Can't have too much data. Well, let's switch back to our account. And I just want to ask y'all something. So we showed you all our, let's go back to that specifically that we were talking about, the Luxury Sports. So we showed you all this lead page earlier, right? Where's all that data supposed to go? Sure, this is already filled up as it is, and we can create custom fields if we want that'll show up down here. But do you really want this to extend 100 custom fields down? And if so, please tell me how having all of that data is helping your sales members make those sales. Now, I'm not saying don't create custom fields for the things that are most important to you. That's definitely a really important process of getting set up in Nutshell. But sometimes, and in this case, it seems like less is more. Now let's take a look at a different example file that we have. This is also one that was sent in to us by a customer of ours. And this is more along the lines of what we like to see when we're helping people import. All right, switch the screen over to the good import file. Here we go. Okay. So again, this is going to start off pretty similar to what we were talking about in the last one. You've got your person name, company name. You want to know the address, phone number, fax. If this is coming over from another database, I want to bring over any notes that we have about them. Sources, we've been emphasizing this whole time about how important that is for us in our business to keep track of. If these were past leads from a different database, I want to know if they were won leads, lost leads, closed leads. We can put the value of those leads in here. And then we have these two custom fields. Now again, square footage and services requested are not default fields in our Nutshell account. But these are two things that are really important to us that we want to have every time that we're working with a customer. So let's go ahead into our Nutshell account and create those custom fields. Circle back, switch the screen. There we go. So I'm going to go ahead and go back into my settings. Scroll down here to custom fields. And let's go ahead and add those custom fields in here. So the first one, square footage, simple enough. And then the second one is services requested. And I actually want to make this a decision field because there's only 3 answers that this can be. And if we have them as just like a multiple choice dropdown, that leaves less room for some of our sales reps might make typos when they're typing these in every day. So this just cuts down on that. So they can either get equipment, installation, or both. And this is actually a really important one for us. So what I'm going to do is I want this one to be front and center. Go ahead and add these in here. Go back to this lead that we had. And we can see here that services requested has been added. We can choose from those. And we could put the square footage of the installation site down here because that's going to be important to us. So not only does it make this data really easy to get in and out of the system at this point, but like I said earlier, if we have a sales rep who's pretty new to the game, not 100% sure what they should be doing at 100% of the time, they can take a look at this lead and they'll know that these are really important things that they should be asking about during their emails and their phone calls with this customer. So let me pull that. We just got one more thing that I want to go over today with you all, and I'm going to pull that spreadsheet back up to help you visualize this. So I talked a little bit about integrations. One of the most common integrations that we see is a web form integration. So, that's like a section on your website where it says contact us, and here's some details we want from you when you're contacting us. A lot of these are going to be exactly the same as we see it in the spreadsheet, but we can change some of these to really match what we're looking for. So for source, for instance, we might change that to, how did you hear about us? And then for value, maybe we can change that to, what is your budget? So then when people are reaching out to us through our contact us area on our website, we're proactively getting that information from them. Our sales reps don't have to ask that because they already gave it to us up front. So these are just little ways and little tweaks that, like I'm saying, you can set your account up in ways that just make it easier for you in the long run and really just shape up a great Nutshell account to be successful making these sales. So this goes through with the bulk of what I wanted to present on today. I hope this was all useful for you, and we've got just a couple of minutes left over, so I want to see if anybody's got a question or two that we can take. Let's go ahead, and I'm going to take a look at this Q&A section. Okay. So Michelle here asked if there was a way to have a pipeline with several activities per stage. It's a great question, Michelle. Let's go back to that pipeline and just talk a little bit about it. So as we can see here, I have in this first stage, my main things that I want my sales reps to take care of is I want them to send emails out and I want them to make calls. And you can even set due dates for these. So we want to send out the email first, let that sit for a little while, and then if they don't get back to us, we can set this call to be due 5 days after the lead is done. But you can add as many tasks as you want here. Maybe we have a day 3 call. You can add that in here. And maybe the whole goal of this initial contact is to set up a virtual meeting. So again, we see that over here. This is an activity that we want to complete to help make this stage goal happen. We can add those in here as well. Schedule virtual meeting. And we'll make that due at the very end. We'll say we want this to be due at least 1 week after the prior task is completed. So yeah, really, take liberty to customize these in ways that are going to be successful for you and your team. You can add as much or as little as you want into it. You can add as many stages as you need to, or keep it as simple and concise as you want as well. Thanks, Michelle. Great question. All right. Let's see if we got 1 or 2 more over here. Okay. So Lindley over here asked if you can put in an Instagram handle the way to pull in the Twitter information. Now, it doesn't work a lot like that, but we can still record that data in here. So let's say Abby, she is at Abby Wells. Add this in here. But we can also customize this and say, this is her Instagram handle. Then that way, this will update later on, but that way we have a great little area where we can refer back to later on. And we can also set those as custom fields so that they're easier to report on as well. Let's go ahead and say for every person, we want to add their Instagram handle. Then when we look at our people list, we can customize this list. Oh, I accidentally saved that as custom field. My mistake. Instagram handle. Refresh that. All right. And So we can go ahead and add these in here. Perfect. All right. And then look, we can record that information, have it right up next to their contact information as we do. Okay, so that's all the time we had for today. Thank you all for coming. You can always reach out to me and my team if you need any more help, but hope this was helpful for you and that you all have a great rest of your day.